Perlibis just gave base PS5 a sharpening toggle. PS5 Pro has had a full slider since patch 1.03. Both consoles can now sharpen the image, but they're not using the same tool. Here's what that actually looks like. Crimson Desert patch 1.05 just dropped, and among the headline features, which are rematch, reblockade, new pets, there's a quieter change that matters if you care about image quality. Base PS5 and Xbox Series consoles got a new Sharpness Enhancement toggle under video settings. On and off, that's it. No dial, no intensity. Meanwhile, PS5 Pro has had a full PSSR sharpness slider since patch 1.03. 0 to 100 any value you want to set on PSSR slider. So I captured 4 locations on both consoles, both with sharpening completely off and both with sharpening pushed to maximum. Same camera angles, same lighting, same graphics mode side by side. Quick note on transparency. The PS5 Pro footage I'm comparing against was captured on patch 1.03.01. I verified it on current patch and PSSR output is identical, so the comparison is fair. I'm tagging the Pro footage as 1.03.01 throughout the video so you know exactly what you're looking at. I also want to mention, since I didn't make a video on patch 1.004, Perlibis added a chromatic aberration toggle in accessibility settings. That's important for this video because sharpening amplifies chromatic aberration. I will show you why that matters when we get to Hernand Vista location. But all of the footage you're about to see is captured with chromatic aberration turned on. Let's get into it. Starting with Kliff's face close-up, both sharpening completely off. On the left side, base PS5, on the right, PS5 Pro. Even with no sharpening, there is already a gap. PS5 Pro's PSSR reconstruction resolves more hair strand detail and keeps skin texture tighter. FSR on the base PS5 side is softer. You can see it in the beard especially. This is the raw upscaler difference before any sharpening enters the picture. Now, both at maximum. Base PS5 with Sharpness Enhancement on, PS5 Pro at PSSR 100. This is where this comparison tells a very different story than you might expect. Look at the PS5 Pro side first. PSSR at 100 is digging into the skin. You can see the individual pores, roughness, micro detail in the face paint. The beard hair have strong contrast. The skin looks weathered, textured, almost gritty. That's PSSR at max. It's pulling real detail out of reconstruction, but it's pulling out everything, including detail you might not want. Now look at the base side. The sharpening toggle is not even close to that intensity. The skin is cleaner, smoother, almost soft by comparison. The beard is sharper than it was with toggle off, but it's nowhere near the individual hair definition you get on PS5 Pro. The face paint edges are tidier, but the skin underneath stays calm. Base's sharpness enhancement is light touch. It's not trying to be PSSR at 100. It's closer to what PSSR 25 to 50 looks like on PS5 Pro. The toggle helps, but it's a mild polish, not a deep sharpen. Forest foliage. And if we zoom into the distant trees, the difference is clear, even with sharpening off. On the PS5 Pro side, the tree canopies have sharper separation. You can distinguish individual leaf clusters, and the branches have defined edges. On the base PS5, the foliage blends together. The edges between branches are softer. The detail falls off faster at distance. The stone and building textures hold up better on PS5 Pro too. PSSR is resolving detail at every distance layer that FSR is smoothing over. Now we're looking both at Sharpness Enhancement on and PSSR at 100. On base PS5, the new toggle sharpens the distant detail. The trees are a bit crisper, the buildings have slightly tighter edges, but the improvement is subtle. The toggle cannot close the distance gap because FSR didn't reconstruct that detail in the first place. Now look at the chromatic aberration. The colored fringing on the foliage edges It's more visible on PS5 Pro than on base. PSSR resolves sharper edges. The sharper edges reveal chromatic aberration more clearly. At PSSR 100, the chromatic aberration is amplified hard. On base PS5, the softer image actually hides the chromatic aberration. The toggle's mild sharpening isn't aggressive enough to pull it out. Let's look at the heavy foliage scene with both sharpness off and PSSR at 0. The PS5 Pro image has noticeably more definition at distance. Distant trees have cleaner edges. The overall textures hold together better. FSR on base PS5 is muddier at range. The further the geometry, the bigger the gap. This is where PSSR's reconstruction advantage shows more clearly. Next, we're looking both at maximum. And if you compare this to sharpening off, the base PS5 side improved, but it's subtle. The distant trees are marginally tighter, but the foliage still blends at distance. Now look at PSSR at 100. It's significantly sharper. The tree canopies have strong separation. The leaf clusters are individually defined. The gap that was there with both is still very much here with both maxed. And this makes sense technically. Base PS5's sharpness enhancement is actually FSR's own built-in sharpening algorithm called RCAS, Robust Contrast Adaptive Sharpening. It's designed to enhance what FSR already reconstructed, but it cannot create detail that FSR missed during upscaling. PSSR's sharpening works differently. It's part of the reconstruction process itself, so it can actually influence what detail gets resolved. That's the fundamental difference. Inside the castle, the comparison gets interesting. Both sharpening off, and honestly, the detail is almost identical. The chandelier, metalwork, the ceiling mold, the stone textures, the gap that was obvious outdoors has nearly disappeared indoors. But look at the lighting. PS5 Pro's side has better light quality, warmer, deeper, more natural bounce light from candles. That's not the upscaler, that's ray tracing. PS5 Pro runs higher ray traced global illumination settings than base PS5, especially in performance mode, where base PS5 makes significant cutback to ray tracing. Perlebis built this game lighting around ray tracing from the start. So indoors where lighting matters most, Pro's advantage isn't sharpness, it's how light behaves. With base PS5 Sharpness Enhancement on, it actually looks sharp. The chandelier has real definition, the stone wall textures are tighter, the scene reads well. RCAS is doing its job here. But then you look at the PS5 Pro side and you see what two advantages stacking together looks like. PS5 Pro's ray traced lighting reveals more surfaces. Areas that sit in shadows on base PS5 are lit up on PS5 Pro. And PSSR at 100 sharpens those revealed surfaces hard. The chandelier rope strands are individually defined. The mortar lines between stone blocks are visible. Base PS5 looks good on its own, but PS5 Pro looks better because ray tracing and PSSR are compounding. And that's not a hardware failure. That's not a failure of a toggle. That's a hardware gap. Now, two issues I found during testing that Pearl Abyss needs to address. First, every time the game loads, the screen flashes blinding white before settling to normal brightness. On an OLED or plasma screen, this is genuinely uncomfortable. It's like staring into a flashlight for 2 seconds every time you load a save game. This has nothing to do with sharpness enhancement toggle, it's a loading screen issue that needs a fix. Secondly, texture pop-in. Watch the chandelier as I enter the kitchen. See how the texture resolves. It sharpens in front of you, slowly, like it's loading in stages. This is called texture streaming. The game is loading higher resolution textures as you approach and add PSSR 100. The sharpening makes that transition visible. You can see the exact moment the full resolution textures arrive. These issues are present on both consoles. These are texture streaming and LOD issues that Perlebase still hasn't addressed, and turning on sharpening makes them the first thing you notice. So here's the answer. Should you turn Sharpness Enhancement on? Yes, of course. And here's why. The toggle is lighter than you would expect. It's not an aggressive sharpen. It's a mild polish. On landscapes, it tightens detail without chromatic aberrations issues you get at higher PSSR values. It doesn't dig deep, but it also doesn't create problems. The trade-off is that it's subtle. If you're expecting a dramatic difference, you won't get one. And indoors, the gap with PS5 Pro actually widens because PS5 Pro has two advantages stacking: better ray tracing lighting and sharper reconstruction. The toggle can't compete with that combination. Texture pop-in also becomes more visible with the toggle on. If you're on a PS5 Pro and running the PSSR slider above 50, you can go into the accessibility setting and turn off chromatic aberration. Patch 1.04 added that toggle and it makes a real difference on PS5 Pro. On base PS5, the sharpening is mild enough that chromatic aberration isn't really an issue, but you can turn it off anyways, with no downsides. The bigger picture: PS5 Pro gets a full 0 to 100 sharpness slider, while base PS5 gets a light switch. But the light switch is dialed to a sensible value. It's not trying to be PSSR at 100. It's closer to PSSR 25 to 45. PS5 Pro owner can push harder if they want or pull back, while base PS5 owners can get one fix. They get one fix. Mild level of sharpening, it's conservative, and honestly, that's the right call from Perlebase. Now you can turn it off and turn it on and turn chromatic aberration off and enjoy the cleaner image. Next up, Directive 8020, which will drop on May 12th. It's one of the first games built natively for PSSR2, and it's a horror game set in dark corridors, so expect a full PS5 Pro breakdown. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Thank you for watching.